All right, everyone. This week we are going to be discussing pay-to-play era, how social media platforms are now double dipping on creators by asking them to pay for promoted posts. So I'd like to welcome my guest, my co-host, Chubby. Good to see you as
I've
always.
been just demoted to be a
No,
guest. Yeah.
sorry. My co-host, my weekly co-host, Chubby.
Yeah, great to be here. Back with a topic, we never really touched upon, at least not too much. So it's definitely gonna be an interesting one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one that I don't think a lot of creators are like talking about right now. And I'm noticing in my feed that certain bigger creators are promoting. I'm seeing a lot of their posts more frequently, and it just makes me wonder, if they're using these features, if they're promoting them, or it's hard to know because you see these really high view counts on some of their profiles, and you kind of think, how did this post get so much reach? And you're trying to figure it out as a creator yourself, like trying to figure out how to make that all work. So you kind of want transparency, but you don't always get that.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's kind of, social media, the whole creator economy is evolving, and there are more and more people jumping out of their 9 to 5. But the number of consumers of these social media accounts isn't growing as fast, at least, as many creators are inundating the market. I mean, there's always people who are leaving, they don't, stay consistent, and they kind of, disappear. But there's still a lot more people offering services, and the amount of consumers isn't really changing. So how do you stand out? How do you make sure you get your content in front of the right people when there's a lot more of that saturation in any kind of platform you go on?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. I think a lot of these bigger creators see the trend happening. They know that the market is being flooded with more and more creators, and they're trying to stay ahead of that. I don't blame them. I mean, it's essentially anybody who's been in this for years, has a head start, has income, is trying to build a moat, I think. Um, I mean, again, like some of these bigger creators, like I see, I've been more active on Instagram lately, and I've been seeing, Gary Vee come up in my feed like every few posts, and I think he posts like 30 times a day. I read one time, and I think to myself, like, he's kind of trying to take up all that shelf space, right? I remember learning years ago about how certain brands like Budweiser will come out with all these different can versions, and they'll different sizes. Like there's the 12, there's the 20 ounce, there's the light, the 0 calorie, all that kind of stuff. And so when you're a craft beer brewer and you're trying to get in the grocery store, there's no shelf space left. So they basically just kind of flood the available real estate. And that's kind of what it seems like is happening. And I think it's kind of playing right into the hands of the social media platforms because they've kind of, they know you're addicted to that audience. You need it for income. They know you're a business now. And they're kind of like pulling it back from you and saying, oh, you want your audience back? Here, pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also how I think it's also intentional how they don't provide you that consistent number of views once you reach a certain, like some of your posts might go viral, and then it goes back to like baseline, which is why, it kind of makes you think whether I should invest or not. I think that's one of the first things. So I think all of the algorithms are doing it on purpose. They know that as there are more and more and more of these different social media platforms. I mean, now there's like, LinkedIn video is being promoted in a lot of conferences, as far as I know. There's Lemonade, right? And all these kind of different things. So, and it's heavily promoted, I'm sure, I don't know if you wanted to say anything about.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to pull that up on stage just yet. It didn't mean to
So
distract from what you're saying. I was
it's
just
heavily
preparing.
being promoted. I know, for example, on TikTok, I see it many times. I just ignore it when it asks me to, like, oh, you want to promote it? You want to reach more people with this video? So yeah, it's becoming a thing, and a lot of these platforms are becoming where people are shopping. They follow the Chinese model, which is working really well in China. It's been working well like for the last 2-3 years, where people are adding stickers and all these kind of different links to each content piece where people get to click on and then buy stuff through the app. So they don't have to go through like Amazon or anything else. They directly see the creators or anyone promoting services or products or anything. They click on it. It's just convenient.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're mentioning something I wrote about and made a video about, which is creators who are selling directly through the platform. It's my belief that platforms are going to prioritize those people because they can take a cut of their sales. So I don't think people realize how massive the business of social media is becoming. Not only are they selling to advertisers, which was kind of always their bread and butter, but now they're selling to the creators, the people who they were relying on as the content for their platform. Now they have the audience, so they're selling that audience back to the creators. So they've got a two-sided marketplace there, but they're also selling products through the platform directly to the viewers through these creators. So it's like they've got this three-headed monster now where it's just going to be like massive business, and it already is, but it's just getting
Well,
bigger.
yeah, until it lasts. I mean, in this form at least, because a lot of people say that, the future of social media is not on the phones, it's gonna be through like goggles and glasses and everything else. So let's take advantage of this until we have it. And be grateful for it. Like sometimes I catch myself complaining like my reach is down or anything, but I'm like, there's never been an easier way for me to promote my stuff. At least give it a chance to promote it for free, which is, I think, many times something we forget. Like 30 years ago, 50 years ago, you would have to like cold call people, create flyers, invest in like billboards and everything else for your marketing. But yeah. So yeah, have you already tried or just considering trying out paid like content?
I'm considering. I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to do it as a test because I want to know, I want to understand and be able to talk more about it for people, give them some insight. For people who don't know, I wanted to share this. Like when you go on TikTok and you post something, it'll ask you if you want to buy views, like right through the platform. It used to be you had to go to some seedy website and like, pay somebody through like some Chinese bank on, Venmo or something. Now you can just do it directly through TikTok. And Instagram is no different. Here, I'll share that one as well. There we go here. So, okay, yeah. So when I promoted this very post about our live, I got prompted with this immediately. And there's just this little like dragger here, this little slider, and it goes all the way up to $1,000 a day and 30 days. So you could spend $30,000, and it said the reach that it anticipated was up to 900,000. And I don't know if maybe that goes up based on if you have more reach, perhaps. Maybe it could go up to the millions. I don't know, but that's what it promised if I spent that. So I mean, you could spend $30,000 easy on ads on Instagram if you're making money off it. It might be worth it. But
yeah. I mean, I always think I'm tooting my own horn, but if you know that your messaging is nailed, investing in paid ads, investing in even meta ads, all these kind of things, not just necessarily promoting the content itself. I don't know if you want to talk about that as well, like ads versus paid content, is definitely worth it, because once you know this is converting, when I'm talking about, let's say, a client before and a client after, And most of my clients, most of my prospects, the people usually buy from me, tend to be coming from that segment of an audience who need this type of like sales centered video. You know that that's going to perform and people are going to buy and more people are going to come into your world. But if you just winging it and you are like, yeah, just gonna like share something without any sort of strategy into it, like no captions, no headlines or anything, it seems crazy, but lots of people do this. You can't really expect much. So you cannot just like ramble for 3 minutes on something, pay $500 and say, here's my $5,000 coaching program, buy it. That's just not how marketing and sales work.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we should talk about strategy, because you're right. I've seen plenty of posts on various platforms where it is an organic post, and it makes me aware maybe of that creator, but it doesn't make me necessarily buy anything from them. I don't think they're going to see a return on that investment. Whereas the people who are professionals and been doing this a while, they understand exactly what you just mentioned, that it's got to be strategic. So if you're going to promote a post, make sure that you have intent behind it. To Instagram's credit, it did ask me what my goal outcome was: to get more followers, to get more views, to sell a product. So I think they're trying to set up some guardrails to try to help people, make the right choice, and then also Instagram know what audience to put that in front of. But you have to inform yourself, because you could quickly spend money and get no return on that investment.
Yeah, so, and it can be pretty. It's like gambling, right? So it can be really addictive to say, my God, there's no clients coming, let's put more ads in. And I know so many people, one of my students, who invested like thousands into like Meta. I think it was Meta ads. I'm not sure if it was promoted post. And they didn't get any clients. And it was like, yeah, because of your messaging. Your messaging was speaking to the people, the ads went out to people who were not interested or were not at the stage where they would consider even buying. So one of the first things I always say when it comes to strategy is you've got to think the way your consumers think. And the first thing their subconscious is going to ask is this relevant to me? So for example, if somebody tells me, if I see a boosted post that says, are you a bro marketer who wants to make as much money in your lifetime as possible? I'm like, skip, because I'm not a bro marketer. I don't identify as that. That doesn't mean it's a bad ad. It's just not targeting me. Identity-wise, I immediately not identify with that thing, which is, huge mistake people make, is that they post content that's for everyone and anyone without mentioning that identity there. So if my caption, if my first couple of sentences, if my what is that called, my hook or anything is speaking to a certain identity, or at least describing their identity in a way, people will get hooked, right? They will be like, this is speaking to me, let's see what this guy is about. I can't hear you. I don't know if it's just me.
No, it was me. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think that you need to hook them with that, especially with ads, right? Like if they determine that something's an ad, you've got even less time than you normally would have. I know for myself, right? Like there are ads I do watch, but it's ones that are special, ones that really like grab my attention with that killer hook. So you've got to make sure that the people know that you're speaking to them, that you're the audience they're trying to reach, and that you can solve the problem that they have. So I think that's important. It's a good point you bring up.
And like really embody this and integrate this, because what we talk about conceptually might make sense to a lot of people, but if you have a look at the majority of your posts, in the first few lines, whether it's written, video, audio, are you describing the identity of the person you're speaking to? If not, I would be worried, right? Because that means you're speaking to everyone, and that means you're not relatable to the specific audience that you want to eventually bring into your world.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. I've got some other notes here I wanted to talk about. You mentioned ads, Facebook ads, and it's kind of now we've gotten muddled, right? Like, what do you see as the difference between a Facebook ad and a promoted post?
So I've never tried the promoted posts, the boosted posts, but what I know about meta ads is that you get to choose what type of audience it's gonna get in front of. Like, you get to choose the demographics, you get to choose what they have done before. You can also create pixels for people who downloaded your freebie, so you can catch them at a different stage of the sales process. Like, I know, for example, I signed up for a challenge about memberships, but then I didn't I didn't register, or I don't know if I didn't attend the lives or anything, whatever the pixel caught. So I saw an ad saying, well, you forgot one thing, right? You haven't gone to the first workshop. And I'm like, shoot, that's so true. So there are now big creators who are able to create meta ads that target people because there is a pixel that, I don't know how it works on the back end. You probably know it better, if you know it. But basically, they target people at a different stage in the funnel. So you might get an ad that invites you on the challenge, but then you might get an ad that tells you, well, you need to watch stage 2 or workshop 3. And then a third one, which is like, card open, let's buy, right? So that's how specific you can make your meta ads, which I don't think you can do with a boosted post, for example. The boosted post is just the algorithm is going to put it in front of more people based on how the algorithm works. But it doesn't necessarily function as an ad targeting a specific demographics. That's just my imagination of how it's different. Yeah.
I think there's, and that's a great explanation. Just to focus in on what I was after, which is like the cultural shift of creators who I think fell into either camp of people who were heavy sales funnel types, very keen on using advertising to grow their reach. And then you had other creators who kind of felt like advertising was a cheat code, or, that it made them look bad, like it wasn't really the right way to do it. And they weren't interested in advertising in particular. I mean, I kind of was in that mindset when I first came into all of this. And I wanted to believe that I could grow the reach organically, like, enough. And I think with the promoted posts now, you've got people who are thinking about it a little differently. Like, oh, well, I'm just boosting my content. I'm not necessarily running a traditional ad, but they are still paying for the opportunity to get in front of an audience. So it's definitely gray.
Yeah, I mean, if you know who you're talking to, if your messaging is dialed in, like you talk about the problems in a way that makes sense to people, you mix in desires, challenges, values, anything else that makes people feel like this is relevant content, I'm going to be investing my time, effort, and energy in, then of course a boosted post makes sense as well. What many times happens, and I think this is partly why there's a lot of people who argue against it, is that you might risk going viral, going in front of the wrong audience, and then, if the wrong people follow you, that already kind of curses your account in a sense, because then the algorithm would think, oh, these are the type of people who follow or like this type of content. They don't know if that's actually a buying audience. They're just gonna put, in front of consumers, your content. And I think, yeah, we need to be able to know who we are speaking to, the type of problems we talk about, we solve, and connect it to whatever offer. So it's not just like freeloaders joining, but actually potential buyers.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's all valid, all true. I don't know what to add to that, really.
Like I always say, everything goes back to messaging. Of course, what else would I say? But it's a lot of people say that ads didn't work for them, so like they wasted a lot of the ads money because their messaging wasn't dialed in, because they were either talking about problems no one cared about, no one would pay for, or presented them in a way that it wasn't urgent, or wasn't all about shifting beliefs, wasn't controversial enough, wasn't positioning themselves as different from everybody else. When we focus on ads and we really want to invest thousands of dollars in ads, we want to make sure that it's quality and it really gets people to do the thing we want them to do, which is all about understanding your audience, what makes them click.
Right. Yeah, and I think going back to what we were saying earlier, if you are going to boost a post, it probably should be a validated one you already have like feedback and know that it resonates with your audience, and then you can put a little money behind it and see if it has that same ability to reach people that aren't already following you.
Or at least the format should be validated. Like, if it's targeting, let's say, you want more people to buy your stuff, then previously you might have created similar formats, similar types. Not everybody values the same thing when they make buying decisions. There are buyer types according to buyer psychology. So there are people who might care more about the transformation itself. There are people who want a personal story because they value connection. There are people who prefer to be seen, to be validated before. So it's all about the type of people that have bought from you, which is always the data ideally tells you if you collect the right data. And then you can create further posts, further content pieces that are using the same format. They might talk about a different topic, a different problem, or from a different point of view of that problem. But eventually, because it's been proven to be working and converting before, it also works when you boost it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, what else do we got here to talk about? It's kind of slightly related, and I've been noticing that a lot of creators are like, one of the solutions that I think people are coming up with is to take people off platform, right? So we've talked about this before. Everyone says build your newsletter, right? That's the audience that you truly own, right? You can't ever be shut out from that audience necessarily, as long as you have their email address, like as long as they're subscribed, like you should be able to get to them, to varying degrees with filters and tabs and things like that within inboxes. But one of the solutions with trying to continue to reach that audience is to take them off platform. And so I'm noticing that a lot of people are trying to create communities, right? They're trying to sort of build their own social platform. And I think that a lot of people are rushing into it before they've really created that draw, that attraction to themselves. And they don't have enough gravity in a sense. And I think a community can amplify a working business, but it doesn't fix a broken one. So I kind of wanted to just talk about that a little bit and see what your thoughts were on that.
I mean, I think it's important to catch people in all kinds of different ways. Like I think this traditional way of what is it called? Like attract, nurture and convert, right, or something like that, or sell, is like assuming that everybody is at the same stage of their progress, which that's just not how it works. I can, there could be 500 people watching my videos. Few of them are still in the stage of like, do I like this guy? Does it even make sense what he's saying? Another portion of it might say, yeah, he makes sense. Like I might even consider buying his stuff. Like, what does he have? It feels like he's speaking to me. And the third one would be like, yeah, this was the video I needed. I'm clicking on the whatever button is out there. So I think that's what we have to make sure that we create in all the different stages of our funnel. I don't like to call them funnels. We call them bridges in my space because I think that's a much nicer way. We're not supposed to like suck people in, but actually create those bridges, guide them to the next stage. But whether it's your content or in your emails or in a community, we need to make sure where we say what we say and how we sell or encourage people to take that next step. I cannot just come and say, here's a 1-minute video, and if you want my $5,000 private coaching, sign up, here's the link, right? So there either has to be, if you're selling that, there has to be either an application form, there has to be some sort of other thing in between. No one is gonna watch videos and then sign up for a high-ticket coaching offer because you just talked about whatever. So I think that's where the strategy, being intentional, and then talking, like saying, focusing on where you say what you say is also important, and not just what you say or how you say it, which is what traditionally people think when they create content, copy, or anything else.
Yeah. Okay. But I don't know if I missed it, but just to double back, like on the community aspect of it, do you see the community as a solution for creators who maybe don't want to pay to advertise or to promote their content? Because I think that it's gonna be a necessity at some point. Like the market's getting more flooded. The bigger creators are trying to build their moats. They have their war chests. They're going to try to like take up that real estate in the feed, and so I think people are going to have to decide like what they how they want to go about
And I
this.
think we kind of touched upon this last week. Like you even said, like, so everybody's gonna have like a community of like 15 people because everyone will have their own community. And you can already see that. Like, I don't know if I think on Instagram there's also like you call them broadcast channels. Now TikTok came out with another thing as well where you can simply I don't even know what it's called, but like a broadcast channel where I think a billboard or whatever it's called, I don't know now, where it's kind of a mini community, but it's a group chat where you get to post stuff, you get to poll your audience or anything else, which is another way for them to engage. So I think a lot of these social platforms are now trying to integrate this community aspect into the platforms. But again, it's still on the platform. You still depend on whether they, flag you for violating anything. And if, like I always say that I'm for the disruptors. I'm for the people who want to make a change here, who want to offer a better solution, who want to see beyond just people's surface level problems and offer better, faster, more innovative solutions. So sometimes we might end up talking about something that, hits the censors or whatever it's called, the violations. So you might get banned, which happened to one of my accounts on Instagram a few years back. I lost it was a small account, like 1,000 followers, but still, all that time and all that effort that went into it was lost. And it was a good thing that I was building my newsletter and I had a community, but at the same time, you are truly on rented property. So I think that communities in this age of AI, where there's going to be less personal touch, there's going to be a lot more like AI creators, even having that close-knit community is going to be an amazing way for you to connect with your audience.
Yeah, you're right. That's a great point that you brought up, was the communities within the platform. And I overlooked that. But that's essentially another way for them to kind of sell you back your audience, because I don't know if you've noticed, but most of the creators doing that they're paid communities, right? Like X had the subscribe. So you've got my regular posts, but then if you want these protected posts, you've got to subscribe and pay a few dollars. It's the same thing on, like, I guess on Instagram. And, you're essentially going to need to pay access. Oh, actually, this is one I was trying to think of, Substack. So you've got newsletter creators who are writing their regular newsletter, but then if you want the really good newsletter, you want the inside scoop, you've got to upgrade. And there's big creators that are moving over there, big newsletters that are moving over there. Like Justin Welsh just announced he's going over there and took with him Dan Coe and their little circle. Jay Klaus, and some of these people who've got tens or hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I think they're keeping their own newsletter as well, but I think they moved over there because they saw an opportunity to monetize their newsletter even further. And
absolutely,
yeah,
I think it's a mixture. Like when it comes to Substack, I've spent I'm like putting my feelers out and see if there's any opportunity. But from what I look at, I'm quite intuitive. So when I look at and scroll through X, I remember the first time I did it, when I created my account, I already felt like, where can I vomit? Like, where's the bucket where I could vomit? Because it was just trash, full of platitudes. Well, Andrew and I both have our own take on the feeling of what X provides, right? The vibes there. And when I took a look at either Threads, for example, I know that's not a long blog post kind of content, but like Substack, I felt the vibes were a lot better. So it was either the algorithm or just simply I felt a lot more aligned with the community there. But it's also the vibes, right, that each of these platforms kind of give you, which is all personal to all of us, depending on whatever we value, what purpose we have about all these or with all these platforms.
Yeah, I checked out Substack. I was posting my newsletter on there, just republishing it. And I was a little off put by, there was tons of like follow for follow requests going on in the in the feed. And just, I'm not into all that, but I just out of curiosity was like, oh, let's see, right? So I followed a few, and honestly, the majority of them didn't follow back. And I was kind of thinking to myself, well, like, okay, I don't love that these people are in this just to trade follows, but it's even worse to tell people you're going to follow back and then not follow back. Like, that's just like cheating. And I don't know. It just was kind of, it seemed naive.
I just can't believe that it's 2025 and people are still like doing this. It's just insane to me.
Well, because I think that's a naive approach, right? And it's even more naive to offer it and not follow through. Like, you've shown that you're green by offering a follow for follow, and then you've shown you're even more green by like burning somebody when you just like started out. Like, you don't even know how to follow through on a follow for follow promise. So like, I would never do anything after that with that person, right? But if I was a reader, I would never like buy anything from them, because I would just think they can't even follow through on the most low investment of things.
Yes.
But the thing that bothers me, or why one of the reasons I stopped like posting on Substack, was because of that. I kind of thought like, oh man, like it's already like over here. Like, it's just getting overrun now. Like, people, they have good writers on there. They used to have really good writers on Medium, and then Medium monetized. And I don't know, like I kind of stopped going on Medium, but I have I think a lot of people move to like Substack, and there's a lot of good writers on there, but it's like once word gets out that like people are making money, it's like people storm the castle walls and like the walls fall, and it just gets flooded with like a bunch of people who have no idea what they're doing. They don't create valuable content, and the platforms don't really care because now, hey, we've got a bunch of terrible creators, but who cares? Because we can sell something to those people. We can sell them reach. We can sell them views. So it's kind of, if you're somebody who cares about what you're doing and creating high value content, connecting with an audience, it can seem like madness sometimes. It can seem like chaos out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Just gonna say
Hi,
hi to.
Billy. By the way. Yeah,
Yeah.
great to have you. Yeah, I think so. The first thing that we need to kind of get really comfortable with is that what you feel like is good high value content might not necessarily be the one that gets the most engagement, might not be the most viral, might not be the one that gets the most attention. And it's not just because value is always in the eye of the beholder, but also because good content tends to be way too specific, right? And what goes viral, what gets all the attention, the engagement, and everything is just generic surface level stuff. And well, both of us, I think, or neither of us, are the type of people who would just create surface level stuff. We kind of want to create something that pokes people's beliefs, right? That showcases, that gives people an opportunity to go deeper, that invites people to reflect on stuff, that pinpoints some of the symptoms of a problem that they're experiencing, not just surface level stuff like, oh, if you're experiencing burnout, it's not burnout, it's, I just posted about this today. Like every second coach is about, yes, it's misalignment, you're out of alignment. I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? And I remember like 3 years ago, I spent, I don't know, hours looking for videos like, what the fuck is alignment? What does that even mean that I'm out of alignment? No one explained it to me because all the posts were just so generic about, yes, you're out of alignment. If it doesn't feel like right, you're out of alignment. Can we try and explain it deeper and not just use like a 20-second video to kind of make people feel shit about themselves without even explaining what's happening to them? I mean, that's the very reason someone would start believing automatically, without you even plugging your offer, that you have the solution when you're able to speak to them, their own experience, what they're going through in a specific and precise way. So, that's just one example of how this surface level generic content, it could go viral, it gets in front of people, it gets the engagement, but I don't think that's our definition of good high quality content. You're muted again.
Sorry. Yeah, there's a lot to manage over here, man. You do it smoothly. Since I've started trying to do it, I'm juggling a lot of balls over here. But I agree. I think actually now I've lost my train of thought. I think we have some feedback on your end. Oh, anyway, what were we just talking about? What did you just say?
Yeah, I just said that it's like surface level content obviously goes viral. It's more relatable to more people, but more of those people who are also surface level. Like, I'm sorry to say, but surface level content will be liked and engaged with by surface level followers.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think now you mentioned AI, right? It's really lowered the barrier to entry on being a creator. So, what was like difficult before is now easy. And, what was easy before is now like worthless. And what was impossible before is now kind of the new hard. So I think if you're trying to stand out, you need to figure out how to do that new hard thing, because it's just going to be saturated with people doing what's easy. having AI kind of just generate all their content for them. I mean, right now it's doing it with written content, but it's quickly going to become part of the video content as well.
And some people are already doing it. Like I know some like people, creators on TikTok, for example. TikTok already, it's pretty lame. Like I could just show it to people just for the laughs as well. How lame it is. Like the AI that created this is my AI version based on a selfie that I took. Like it's got nothing to do with what I look like.
Yeah.
But I've seen that there are people who, for example, they were off sick for a week or two, but because they had recorded an AI avatar and then added their voice as well, they were able to keep posting. And some people didn't really see a difference. Like I saw the comment section, they were like, wait, which of your content pieces were made by AI, right? And then she was like, yeah, the one with the purple hat. So it's getting a lot. I think I don't know, because you said yes, it lowers the barrier of entry, but at the same time, we are competing for real estate, right, in the online space. So is it gonna be easier for people who are more authentic, who show up real, purpose-driven, raw, but they don't have the time to create like 1,000 pieces of content? Or is it going to be more difficult because those people who create those hundreds of videos every day, because AI could do that, and they keep posting those, and some creators are serious about this, like, creating 50, 100 posts and then sending it over to like 8 different platforms. AI agents, AI, all these kind of different tools can do that. So, which is going to be, where's going to be the balance?
It's a natural response that I'm seeing. There's several of the people on LinkedIn who I've connected with on there. That's their response. They're creating these elaborate carousels of like graphic images that probably a lot of them, well, some of them are doing them manually and others are doing them with AI. But even the AI generated image ones are like top shelf AI generated images. They're like very custom branded. There's a design aesthetic to it. It looks very cinematic and uniform. So I dabble with Midjourney and even Chat GPT with like image generation, and that's a talent in itself. Getting consistent images, trying to make something all look part of the seamless story. So I know that it took that person a long time to generate that, and those posts are starting to stand out. And the one I read the other day was talking specifically about depth and how that's where things are moving. So exactly what you talk about. Like the new novelty is something of depth. And the algorithms are always going to reward what's novel and new, right? Because that's human nature. We're always looking for something I haven't seen before, something I haven't seen before. So we've kind of gone full throttle into this like flood of cheap content, and now people want something more. It's kind of like shopping at like a digital farmer's market. That's one of the terms people like to use, right? So I think that's what people want. Like that's what's next. It's like we've had the junk food, now we want something real. But you're going to do smaller numbers as a creator, right? And it's going to take more time to build that audience. So ultimately, you're probably going to need to charge more to sustain it. The same way we have to pay more to like have these little organic farms and these little craft goods that we get at these farmers markets, right? So I think that's what we're starting to see. Like creators are like hunkering down, like, okay, like there's this blizzard of content out here. I'm going to need to move my newsletter over to this paid service. And if you want access like into this community, you're going to have to pay now so I can sustain myself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think we have to like rethink business models as well. This is going to disrupt a lot of the things that people do. And yeah, it's just going to be the live part, the part where you get to really connect with people, the human part that AI cannot do. the connections, the empathy, the humanness, the emotions, I think they're gonna be having or gaining a lot more traction or a lot more importance, just to counterbalance what AI can do and automatize.
I remember reading years ago about how it was a critique on Gen Z and saying how like they were very socially awkward, like they couldn't do well in job interviews and things like this because they were so used to editing themselves and being able to craft all of their messages. Everything was asynchronous, and when they were having a synchronous conversation with someone and they had to think on the fly, they weren't, they were uncomfortable. I don't know if I believe that entirely. I mean, and that was years ago that I read that, so maybe opinions have changed a little bit. But I think one of the points that it made that stuck with me was that human connection, when we really feel like we got to know someone, is when we see those little awkward moments, those pauses when when they're sweating or when they laugh a little bit funny, and I don't know, maybe they snort or something, and then you guys like have this little moment together, right? It's like the things that we edit out of ourselves that we don't like about ourselves are the things that allow people to really connect with us and get to see our humanity. And so I think we're going to be seeing more and more of that. We do this live, like I fumble all over the keys, I turn my mic off and stuff like that. And, I want to get better at it, and I will, but it's probably in some ways endearing me to some people who are watching because they know it's real.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that part as well. Like, we have our BS filter, and I think we're gonna get a lot better at it, right? Over the years of like looking at AI content and a real person. Or there could be like different tricks or ways to show that it's not AI because it's not something repetitive or God knows, right? So yeah, I think the more real, the more raw, the more like really soul. What is the best word? Like soul cracking or polarizing, right? They're gonna be getting a lot more. I hope as well that they're gonna get a lot more traction and a lot more efficiency as well, as in a human, conscious entrepreneur, purpose-driven entrepreneur sharing their truth, and that's gonna be the algorithm, not pleasing the algorithm with all these kind of tricks and gimmicks and everything, but your truth. It will filter out the people who are unaligned and attract people closer to you. So part of me also hopes that a lot more conscious entrepreneurs will step into their leadership energy and really share the raw truth, the real truth, and show people how they are living in smoke screens and everything else.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was remembering this joke that I saw years ago. I think it was on Reddit, and it was Friends if it was cast today, and it had all of this like photoshopped and airbrushed AI characters. Like I'll show it. I managed to find it. So it was like if Friends were aired today, and it kind of showed like what they would look like, or they'd have to look like with their plastic surgery and everything like that. Like this is how they would cast it. And I think when we see this like over glossy, perfect people type stuff, like I don't think we connect in the same way. And I think that's kind of what a lot of creators have started to do to themselves as well, right? They've kind of made themselves a little too perfect. And I think they're going to find that it's resonating less and less with people, right? Like there's already a backlash. People wanted to know, like, hey, if someone's got a filter on, like I want to know that they have a filter on. I don't want to think this person has like perfect skin and hate my skin, thinking I'm not as perfect as them. But meanwhile, they've been airbrushed and they've got this heavy filter on. And then some of the women like on Instagram started like posting videos of themselves with no filter and showing themselves without makeup. And that got like a lot of traction because people were like, wow, finally somebody like willing to bear it all and like show us like what's real and what's not. And, I think with AI booming, it's kind of like it's gotten a little forgotten about that that authenticity movement. People are saying it still. You still hear like, gotta be authentic, but you know, their post that they say it in was written by ChatGPT. So it's like, you know, we
I
we've
mean,
got
we talked about it. This whole idea of what is authentic, it's got lost in translation. Like it's been rewashed and regurgitated and everything so many times that it's just, you know, as my business coach would say, whipped cream on garbage. Basically doesn't mean anything, right? So I think the important thing is to focus on that real, well, the connections, right? Focusing on your stories, on things that AI cannot do. AI doesn't have a past, it doesn't have traumas, it doesn't get teary-eyed when they talk about some kind of past event or anything. And we have those, mirror neurons, if you look at the neuroscience of communication, that help us connect. I'm for sure not going to be able to connect with an AI avatar that's going to cry in front of me talking about some random ass stuff that it got from like the collective consciousness, because that's not going to be making my mirror neurons fire with an illusion of a human.
Right.
So I think these are things that we can always double down on. We need a lot more courage. We need a lot more, I don't like to use the word authenticity, but a lot more realness, a lot more transparency and honesty. And I think that's going to be people's wild card, right? When they get to use it, they're going to be able to build those genuine, real human relationships and, come from a place of impact.
Yeah, I've been seeing videos, AI generated videos of like actors. So they'll see like, Will Smith or I don't know, Tom Cruise, somebody famous, right? Or Elon Musk, right? In these like videos, and they kind of are doing these unusual things. And it's interesting to see, but if we're going to start making movies and things like that with these, I don't think we're going to connect, right? Like, I don't find movies scary when they're CGI like monsters. That to me isn't creepy. The ones that are creepy are the ones like where it's like makeup and animatronics or whatever, like where there's actually a physical creature in the room. And I think it's the same thing with actors. You see them on screen. Like if I know that actor didn't actually perform this scene and it was just an AI, like I don't think it's going to hit the same. It's almost like a better cartoon. It's still a cartoon. And there's probably going to be a market for that because there's a market for cartoons. Some people are okay with that. That'll be its own genre and niche. But like, I just think it's different when it's real and when you can tell it's not.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think this whole idea of like universally agreeing that any sort of AI created content is going to be tagged, like there's also some sort of tag behind in the code of any ChatGPT created stuff now, is hopefully gonna help people distinguish, because we have the right to know whether that person is real or not.
I was thinking about adding like natural writer or something like to some of my writing posts, right? Like if I don't use AI at all, like maybe I'll
wear a t-shirt saying I'm real. I'm not AI or something.
I mean, I use AI to help brainstorm and organize drafts and stuff like that. Like I'm not anti-AI. I just think sometimes I just want to do it the old-fashioned way, right? Like, and I might want to acknowledge that because I think it is different. I mean, AI is kind of like it's allowing us all to be more productive. It's almost like everybody's on steroids now, right? Their brain's on steroids, and you can still compete in like the natural bodybuilding competition, but it's never going to be as big as like the steroid bodybuilding competition because people kind of want to see like what's the limit of human potential. And I think AI has raised the bar for human potential. Absolutely. So yeah, still have some time left here. I just wanted to let people know if you have questions, like feel free to add them to the wherever you're watching this. and we will reply to them here. We already had Will.
We kind of went off on a tangent with the AI stuff, but yeah, I think it's also an important topic to mention and talk about and clear a couple of things up. And these are all predictions, right? Just like with social media. We hopped on social media in 2009, kind of around that time when Facebook came out. At least that's when it reached us. And it was an experiment for like 10 years. We didn't even know what sort of problems it's going to cause, what societal issues it's going to bring up. We had no idea that scrolling on, like looking at screens, is going to have an impact on depression, anxiety, or anything else, right? On our own well-being as well, not being exposed to sunlight and constantly being exposed to artificial light. So the next couple of years are going to be the same. We're going to be learning from our own mistakes. We learned from our own mistakes during the 2 world wars. We came to conclusions. We never know if it's going to be repeated or anything. The same thing happened with smartphones. There are now people who want to go back to like their old dumb phones. There are people who reduce their time spent there. So it's going to be a learning process that currently humanity is experiencing.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, right? The dumb phones. People today are expected to have phones. You're expected to be able to be reached by your employer or whomever, like 24/7, or at least, during working hours at the drop of a hat, whether you work in office or from home. And I think there was some post I read recently about like somebody who tried to apply for a job and didn't have a smartphone, and they couldn't even apply for a job. Like there was no opportunity for them to even do that. So it's like, I think AI is going to start to become part of that as well, part of that equation, right? Like, are you really going to be able to succeed? In one of my recent newsletters, I referenced the movie Gattaca. Have you seen that movie? You should check it out. It was Ethan Hawke. It was a sci-fi movie, and it was about genetically enhanced humans. And his parents had him at a time when it was still like relatively new, but the majority of society had adopted it. But you still had the choice, and they decided to opt out. And he struggled as a child. And when they had a second child, they decided to go forward with it and genetically enhance him. And throughout his life, his brother just like continues to outpace him and have all the opportunities available to him. And then he gets kind of, because of genetic discrimination, shut out from the better opportunities in life. And he decides like he wants access to those things. So he's goes about this elaborate way of faking it to try to gain access to that society. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing with all of this technology now is a degree of that, right? People are talking about, putting chips in people's brains and having like, genetically enhanced humans in that way. And, not to get too far off on a tangent, but like, I think just be aware, like we are seeing some of that even just in the AI tools that we're using today. Like people who are using them are succeeding. People who
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's only gonna come down to how we use it, whether it's just to circle back to the original one, whether it's about paid ads, boosted ads, or AI, it always comes down to how we use these tools.
Yeah. I was going to say with the pay to play, I want to acknowledge that like we're talking about people who are trying to run a business, right? So it's not unfair that social media is trying to like charge you for access to an audience, because they charged advertisers in the past and they know you're making money on their platform now. So they're like, okay, if you're going to be making money, you have money to spend. So you need to pay for real estate. And I think it's an adjustment for some of these creators who are like small businesses or single person businesses to now be sort of taxed. It's like, hey, here's, the bills come due.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's all about adapting, right? Really trying to keep up as much as we can. There's so many things entrepreneurs need to focus on, but it's about adapting.
How do you adapt if you're not doing this full time? Because I'm doing it full time and it's breakneck speed. And I think to myself, if I was trying to catch up on this after work, there's no way. I would not have enough time. Like I wouldn't have enough time to learn about what's going on through like consumption. I wouldn't have enough time to test and iterate and adapt in that way. You know, like I'm creating different kinds of content on different platforms all day long and experimenting. And so if I wasn't doing that, spending 8+ hours a day doing that, like I'd be moving at a much slower speed, and I'd probably be falling again further behind from what's going on. I wouldn't know what these top creators are doing, where things are moving, and sort of be able to see that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. I think
I mean, time, this could be an amazing topic to talk about as well. How an entrepreneur needs to learn how to make sure they leverage their time for bigger impact. And ultimately, however people are trying to argue for keeping the 9 to 5, you can't. It's not just about the time, but also your energy. There's a universal law that the less channels your energy goes through, the more impact you're going to make. But yeah, probably that's a topic for another live.
Yeah. I think that is another topic. I just wanted to acknowledge, I think there are a lot of demands on creators today, and you're fighting a battle on a lot of fronts. So, you're not alone. I think I've been doing this a little over a year now, and you've been doing it for years. And if somebody's new getting into this, like, just take a breath. There's a lot to learn, and you'll figure it out. We'll figure it out together, and just keep watching, and we'll keep talking about it, right?
Yeah, and if anyone's worried, if anyone has any concerns, I'm sure Andrew and I would be happy to continue a conversation in our DMs as well.
Absolutely. All right, Chubby. You good? Any closing thoughts or
Yes,
that?
Yeah, I think, we've gotta make sure that we are strategic. And I know we've been repeating that, but being relevant is gonna help you a lot more than anything else. So being relevant to the people where they are at with their problems, their challenges, their identity, their values, stuff like that is really what draws the right people closer to your content, whether it's paid, unpaid, promoted, boosted, meta ads, or anything else.
Well said. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us. Until next week, Chubby.
It's been a pleasure.